One word, one question about Raiders quarterback Geno Smith. That plus more on Monday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for June 16th, 2025.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. Definitely appreciate you. If you're catching the show wherever you find your favorite podcast, or you're checking us out by way of the YouTube page, you know we appreciate that as well. The show grows each and every day because of your consistent support and the great job that my man Ari does behind the scenes, making sure we look good and sound good each and every day. So we shout him out. We appreciate him. He's on Twitter at Ari Produces. I'm on Twitter as well, at your boy Q254. And if you want to be a part of the show, we got the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line at 707-654-4693. And as we normally do, we'll close out the show hearing from you. A lot of good calls, a lot of good texts. All that feedback will close things out. Segment number 3, today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Segment number 2, going to take a deep dive into Geno Smith. Actually, we're going to kind of talk about Geno Smith throughout the course of the whole show. But in segment number 2, I heard Freddie Coleman and Harry Douglas, Freddie and Harry, on ESPN radio on Friday talking about the AFC West and talking about the quarterbacks in the AFC West. And they were using one word to describe them. So it really caught my attention. As a matter of fact, I really couldn't get out of the car. I just had to keep sitting there because I wanted to see and hear what they had to say about Geno Smith. So got what Freddie and Harry had to say about Geno Smith. What will I say about Geno Smith? I'll let you hear that. Plus, I'll break down my one word for the quarterback of the Las Vegas Raiders. That'll come up in segment number 2. Here in segment number 1, kind of news and notes. There's not really a lot of news going on right now around the National Football League when it comes to the Raiders. So really deep dive into an article that my guy Dan Graziano from ESPN put out, what to expect from AFC West teams, and one question about each of their quarterbacks. So we'll do that after I tell you about the title sponsor of the show, and that's Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use promo code LOCKEDONNFL. It's all one word for $20 off your first purchase. Hopefully everyone had a really good Father's Day. Hopefully everyone got a chance to spend some time with their pops, or at least reach out to them and, give them some well wishes, or maybe take them out to dinner, whatever the case may be. Had a quick up and back trip to Portland. Little Q graduated on Father's Day, so that's the best Father's Day gift you can get, right? So hopefully everyone had a really good Father's Day, and we're back at it. And this week as well, we'll have some best of shows coming up a little bit later on in the week as get ready for that once a year vacation. So looking forward to that. But let's go ahead and deep dive into the article that Dan Graziano from ESPN put out. One question about all 32 quarterbacks in the National Football League. Well, obviously, we're not going to go over all 32, but we will take a look at the quarterbacks in the AFC West. In the first one, the Chargers, it just drives me up a wall. Is Justin Herbert's protection going to be good enough? You know how I feel. If you've been listening to me for a while, you know how I feel about Justin Herbert. It always seems like there's some kind of excuse, some built-in excuse. And here we go. Is Justin Herbert's protection going to be good enough? At some point, is Justin Herbert going to be good enough? Right? That's the real question I have. At some point, is Justin Herbert going to be good enough? All we've heard about is how fantastic he is, how great he's going to be, and all we've seen is him come up short, and come up short time again, right? I mean, it happens over and over and over. I know they're in a contract situation right now with Rashawn Slater, but they went in, they brought in Mekhi Becton. They drafted Joe Alt, right? They have an offensive line. Is there a couple questions here or there? Sure. But what offensive line is perfect in the National Football League? I know the Raiders' offensive line is not perfect. We've been talking about it quite a bit, but that's the question that Dan Graziano has about the Chargers' Justin Herbert. Is Justin Herbert's protection going to be good enough? Again, feels like another built-in excuse. So if they don't get where they need to be this year, and oh, by the way, they've got Jim Harbaugh, right? He's supposed to be the savior according to everyone. So now if it doesn't work this year, it's going to say, well, Justin Herbert's his offensive line wasn't there. The protection wasn't there. At least that's what it feels like. He said the Chargers are working on an extension for left tackle Rashawn Slater. There doesn't seem to be any reason to think it won't get done. The longer it drags on, the more concerning it becomes. Newly signed Mekhi Becton is going to be counted on to be an upgrade at right guard. Zion Johnson and Bradley Bozeman are rotating between left guard and center this offseason. Right tackle Joe Alt played well last season as a rookie, but there are some questions elsewhere along the line. All right, that was the quick write-up about the Chargers and Justin Herbert. So on to the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. What needs to happen for Patrick Mahomes' stats to return to an elite level? Now, we know Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs aren't that high-flying offense that they used to be. When Patrick Mahomes was much younger and they were just getting around to winning their first Super Bowl, they had Tyreek Hill. You knew they could score a touchdown at any time. Now they're a lot more methodical, but they still are effective. I expect the Chiefs to actually take a step back this year. I've said it multiple times. They won a lot of one-score games last year. I don't think that's going to happen. They were relatively healthy last year. I don't think that that's going to stay the same because normally, again, it's just a numbers game. I don't root for guys not to be healthy, but that's just the reality of it. If you get hit really hard like the Raiders got in 2024 with the injury bug, normally it balances out the next year where you're relatively healthy. Like the Detroit Lions, I sure don't expect them to be super banged up this year because they were super banged up last year in 2024. So we'll see about that, but I just feel like that the Chiefs offense just isn't that explosive offense, especially when you have a guy like Travis Kelce getting older. Of course, they went out and they got their speedster last year, so you think that they'll probably be pretty good offensively, but I just don't think that they'll ever really be that high-flying, that high-wire, wall-to-wall scoring really quickly like they used to be, that kind of offense. I don't see that happening with the Chiefs anymore. Goes on to talk about the Denver Broncos. Can Bo Nix be the quarterback who ends Patrick Mahomes' streak of 7 straight AFC West titles? He said many have tried, all have failed. The Chiefs have won the division each of the past 8 seasons, the past 7, which Mahomes has been their starting quarterback. Nix and the Broncos were a blocked field goal away from winning in Kansas City last season, and they made the playoffs with a 10-7 record. I think Bo Nix has a long way to go. I think he did some really good things his rookie year. He's a quarterback that fits with what Sean Payton wants to do. But it sounds like a tall task to all of a sudden take that second step next year, right? The next year and knock off the Chiefs from the AFC West champs. At some point, somebody's going to do it. I don't know why he would focus in on the Denver Broncos being the team and Bo Nix being the team that all of a sudden knocks him off of the championship of the AFC West division title. I look at, if you're going to say that the Chargers are going to take that next step, I mean, they were a playoff team as well. Broncos were as well. So, I mean, I feel like either one of those you can say the same thing about. And at some point, the Raiders are going to be a really good team as well. And they're going to have something to say about the AFC West division title. So we'll see who knocks off the Chiefs, but eventually someone will knock them off from the top of the AFC West. Finally, we get to the Raiders and Geno Smith. And he said, what should we expect from the Geno Smith-Chip Kelly pairing? He said the Raiders acquired Smith, the well-traveled veteran quarterback from the Seahawks, in one of the sneaky strong moves of the offseason. Based on the way he played the last couple seasons in Seattle, Smith is probably the best quarterback addition any team made this spring or summer. Kelly, making his return to the NFL as Raiders offensive coordinator, has hit it off early with the new QB, with whom he's apparently had a relationship for some time. And Coach Pete Carroll was the Seahawks coach when Smith took over starting quarterback from Russell Wilson and outplayed everyone's expectations. This AFC West division had 3 playoff teams last season, and all 3 of them seem to be better this year. So it's an uphill climb for the Raiders. But don't be surprised if they make it tough on the teams that finished in front of them last year. I'm excited about the Geno Smith-Chip Kelly pairing. Right? I think it's a fair question. What should we expect? Because we don't know. We've never seen it before. But I do think that Chip Kelly is going to be able to unlock Geno Smith to a level that play even better than he did the last few years that he did in Seattle, where he played really well. So I'm excited about that. But if that's going to be the question that you ask about Geno Smith, I think that's fair, right? Just because we haven't seen it yet. But we know that there's plenty of weapons when it comes to the Raiders. Ashton Genty, Brock Bowers, Big Mike, Jacoby Myers, right? Thornton's a speedster. Trey Tucker's a speedster. There's many different ways to get these guys the ball, and I'm pretty excited about it. So that's a good question. I think it's going to be a really good pairing. Coming up in segment number 2, what's one word to describe Geno Smith? And we'll take it a step further, describe the Raiders. The same word. We'll describe both. We'll do that. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about the title sponsor of the show, and that is Gametime. There's nothing like the NBA Finals. The intensity, the buzzer beaters, the fans losing their minds. It's the kind of atmosphere you must experience live. And this year's matchup, OKC and Indiana, they are delivering. So if you want in, Gametime makes it fast and easy to get seats, even for the biggest finals games. Prices on the app actually drop closer to tip-off. With great last-minute deals, panoramic seat views, and no surprise fees, Gametime is a total game changer. And I love the fact that they have zone deals. They have all kind of features like you can get the panoramic view of your seats so there's no surprises when you get to your seats. Like, hey, wait a minute. This is not what I was expecting. No, you know exactly what you're going to get. And with the Gametime guarantee, you know you're getting the best deal. If you find a better price in the same row and section, they'll actually credit you 110% of the difference. Right now, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create the account, use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2, today's Locked On Raiders podcast. One word to describe Geno Smith. You're probably wondering, where did this come from? Well, on Friday, I just wrapped up Joe and Q on ESPN Radio, and Freddie and Harry come on right after us, right? So I was in the car headed to the Las Vegas ballpark to do my show on Raider Nation Radio 920, Unnecessary Roughness, from the ballpark. So I'm listening to Freddie and Harry the whole way. No joke, pull up into the parking lot, and all of a sudden they're talking about one word to describe AFC West quarterbacks. So they go through the Chiefs, they go through the Chargers, they go through the Broncos, and they get to the Raiders. I'm sitting in the parking lot. Remember, it's like almost 100 degrees outside, right? It's Friday afternoon, right? And it's almost 1 o'clock Pacific time in the afternoon. I'm sitting in the car listening to these guys because I wanted to hear the one word that they use to describe Geno Smith. And then I wanted to see what my rebuttal was going to be, if I thought it was fair word to describe Geno Smith, if I thought there was a better word to describe Geno Smith. I had no idea what direction that they were going to go, but this is what Freddie Coleman and Harry Douglas on ESPN Radio on Friday afternoon had to say when it came to one word about Geno Smith. Check it out.
That word that you would use to describe the new quarterback of the Raiders, Geno Smith.
I'm going to go with building. When I look at the Las Vegas Raiders last year, they were last in rushing the football. So what did they do? They brought in free agency, Raheem Mostert. They brought some speed. They also drafted Ashton Genty, who was the best running back in college football last year, a guy that can do it in the run game and also the pass game. Both running backs that they brought in knew this season. But also you have a Jacoby Myers. You drafted a Jack Beck. You have Brock Bowers, who was awesome last year. So they're building, and so is Geno Smith with this offense of the Las Vegas Raiders.
The word I'll use is thankful. In terms of the Raiders are saying, we're thankful we got a quarterback. We've been trying. We have one in Derek Carr. Ran him out of here. We thought we'd had others. That didn't work out. Now you got a bona fide. You got a quarterback that has had success in a running game style that they're going to play the Las Vegas Raiders with Pete Carroll as their head coach. They have a great comfort level together. So for the first time in more than a minute, Raiders fans could look at their quarterback and say, we're thankful, because they had not had any reason to be thankful before Geno Smith and Pete Carroll had a reuniting situation that they're going to have in Las Vegas.
So Harry Douglas, who played in the NFL, wide receiver for the Titans, wide receiver for the Falcons, really good dude, really good friend as well, does a great job on the radio. He said the one word would be building. And so I looked at that and listened to that and thought, okay, building, like the Raiders are building something. But I didn't think that Geno is actually building anything, right? I think Geno is a piece of the build. And I think that this is actually better than just kind of a slow build. I think this is an opportunity where a lot of teams, they say they're not rebuilding, they're retooling. I feel like this is really more of a retool than it is a rebuild, because there were some pieces in place and obviously there needs to be upgrades, and the Raiders were able to do that. So building, I thought, okay, I get what he's saying. You heard his breakdown. All right. And then Freddie Coleman said thankful. And you heard the reason why he said thankful. And they're talking about, not having a quarterback ever since Derek Carr got sat down, ran him out of town. And in came Jarrett Stidham. In came Jimmy Garoppolo. In came Brian Hoyer. In came, who else was there? Carter Bradley. He's still there. Who else has been around? How can I forget? Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell, like all these different quarterbacks have come in since Derek Carr got sat down. So Freddie Coleman says thankful is the word that Raider Nation should be using now that Geno Smith is in place. And I get that, but to me, that didn't really describe Geno Smith. So as I was thinking about it, and no joke, I spent all weekend with this on my mind, like, man, I got to really think how I would have described that. And finally, it popped into my head, ready. The word is ready, and I think that I can use that word ready for not only Geno Smith, but the Raiders in general. And I think I could take it a third step. If I want to go 3 steps long in this one, I could say Raider Nation is ready, right? From all the calls and texts that we get here talking about, no, not 8 wins, not 9 wins, but 10 wins, 11 wins, get to the playoffs. Like, ready. Raider Nation has been ready, right? So I think that word ready can describe Geno Smith, the Raiders, and Raider Nation. So why would I use the word ready for Geno Smith? Well, he's ready to lead his team. He's ready to create a new standard with the Raiders, right? I mean, when he was in Seattle, That was Russell Wilson's team, and he was the backup, and then at some point he came in and took over. But it was still Russell Wilson's team, and he never really seemed like, even when they gave him a contract, it never really seemed like, oh, that's our guy, no doubt about it. And that's what the Raiders avoided this year, where I would have made that same mistake if I was the GM, because I would have gone and got a quarterback early to let him sit behind Geno. Well, now they've let him know, this is your team. We didn't go draft a guy early so every time you make a mistake, all of a sudden the camera goes, looks at the sideline, looks at the rookie, waiting, when is he going to get his opportunity, right? Like they're doing in New York. They're going to do that in New York. Every time Russell Wilson or Jameis Winston makes a mistake, they're going to pan over to the sideline and say, all right, when's Bo Nix going to get in? When's Bo Nix going to get in? The Raiders made it perfectly clear through the draft process, Geno Smith, this is your team. So Geno, ready to lead this team, create a new standard with the Raiders. Ready to show who he always could be with true weapons and creative play calling, which goes back to Dan Graziano's, see how we tied that together? His article that we talked about in segment number 1, where he asked, what are we going to make of the Geno Smith and Chip Kelly pairing? And I think it's going to be really a good thing. If you go back to Geno Smith in college, West Virginia, shout out to the 304, he had a really sharp offensive play caller. He had a lot of weapons around him, and he had numbers on top of numbers on top of numbers. You go back and look at some of those West Virginia games. I was covering the Big 12 then. I was covering Baylor. And there was games where they were putting up 60 points, 55 points, 70 points. He's breaking all kind of records. And I'm not saying he's going to do that, but Chip Kelly is a creative play caller. And even what I saw, the 3 days of mandatory minicamp, it blew my mind that it's only June, and that was the offensive plays that they were running. Right? And, of course, I'm not going to come on here and say, oh, they did this, they did this, they did. No, I'm not going to do that. That would be against the rules, right? There's a reason why they don't let us film outside of, the individual periods. Some teams, they don't mind whenever you film, and if you put stuff out there, people always ask me, how come you guys never take any pictures and videos when they're going like 11 on 11? They don't let us. It's against the rules. They don't want to get anything and let anything out of the building. So we're not allowed to sit there and talk about formations. We're not allowed to talk about, what we saw as far as like certain play calls or whatever the case may be, right? We can be vague about it and say that it looked good or there were some deep shots, this, that, and the other, but, just kind of like calling out exactly what plays they were. That's a no-no against Raiders PR, so we can't do that. But I can tell you, from what I saw, it looks like this is going to be a very creative offense, and they're going to have an opportunity to take the top off the defense. And Dante Thornton is going to have an opportunity to go out there and make a name for himself a rookie year. Trey Tucker is going to be involved, right, and not just on deep shots. Right? I mean, there's Big Mike. Big Mike is not going to be just another tight end. He's going to be a guy. I think, and maybe this is giving more than I should say, but I think you're going to see a lot of 3 tight ends on the field. I think you're going to see a lot of Brock Bowers. Obviously, Big Mike will be out there, but Ian Thomas, I'll just say that, right? Don't be surprised when you hear a lot of Ian Thomas's name as well. So I think Geno Smith is absolutely ready. When it comes to the Raiders, why would I use the word ready? Ready to get back to winning ways, right? How long has it been since they've been down to the point where every time that they have something that looks good, we all get fired up because it's been so long. We're like in the desert and we're thirsty, right? We're thirsty to see some winning ways, getting back to what made everyone fall in love with the Raiders to begin with, right? Raiders ready to get back to winning ways, ready to create a real identity. And I think their offense is going to be able to create the identity of who they want to be. Antonio Pierce had an idea what they wanted the identity to be, right? Strong, downhill running, right? Defensive-minded, punch you in the mouth team, right? That's what they wanted to do, but he was never able to create that. I think this team is ready to create that identity. And it's going to be very similar to what you've seen before from Pete Carroll's teams in Seattle, led by the run game, led by the defense. Ready to stop being other teams' get-right game, right? How many times do we look at games and say, oh, this is the one that the Raiders should get, and the other team's like, yeah, should get this one, right? This is the Raiders. This is a get-right game, right? The Raiders have to be ready to stop being other teams' get-right game, right? It's almost like, when you were in high school and your high school used to schedule the homecoming game, and you always used to schedule the homecoming game against some scrubs because you always wanted to get that dub. Yeah, well, the Raiders, I'm not going to call them scrubs, but they've been the get-right game way too many times. So they're ready to stop being other teams' get-right game. And most importantly, they're ready to just win, baby. Not a T-shirt, not a slogan, not something Q says at the end of the podcast, but actually just win, baby. The Raiders are ready. And I think the word to describe Geno Smith and the Silver and Black and Raider Nation is that word right there, ready. What's on your mind? Your calls and texts will close out the show, 707-654-4693. That'll close things out. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and texts straight off that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Let's start things off with a call from Army Raider. He's calling to explain to Raider Nation about free agents, free agency, and why the Raiders might not be going after the guy that you have your eye on. Here's Army Raider.
Hey, Q, it's your boy, Army Raider. Just calling in for the first time in a while. Been super busy with everything going on. I will say, I've seen you try to explain to people, and I'm just calling this time kind of to talk to Raider Nation. Every time I see someone come up for, free agency or trade, Raider fans are like, oh, let's go get him. Let's go get him. No matter who it is, if it's a name they've heard before. And then when the Raiders don't even make a move, they get upset. Well, what I think people need to realize is you can't just trade or sign everybody because there is such thing as a salary cap. And a lot of people I listen calling to your show, it's wild listening to them get upset or even be bugged if the Raiders didn't get this guy or that guy. And I think what it is in their head is they're operating in a world of no salary cap. So my call to Raider Nation is just because someone's available, don't be mad if the Raiders don't pursue. The money might be too much. We might not have the money in that space. And the way most salary caps general managers work is you have set numbers, not just per player, but also per position group. And you try to stay under that, and that's how you build a functional team. So that's all I wanted to say. Army Raider out.
Army Raider, thanks so much for the call. And as always, thank you for your service. And yeah, that's definitely part of it, right? The Raiders, led by GM John Spytek, are showing they're not going to break the bank for just any free agent, right? They showed that already, right? They're going to play the comp pick game, right? They definitely don't want to just go out there and spend a lot of money, bring in a lot of free agents, right? They're going to want to, draft and develop, and then they'll get a guy here, get a guy there. They'll be comfortable with letting some guys walk that are going to end up getting more money than they want to pay them, just like you saw the guys that left the Raiders organization this past offseason in free agency. They all went and got big money. The Raiders don't want to do that. If you saw what they did in Tampa Bay, they really like to draft and they like to develop. That's what he's going to do. Not to mention, he doesn't want to, and Pete Carroll doesn't want to, and this is something that Lincoln Kennedy pointed out to me just the other day at the Raiders facility. When you have a relatively young team, you have to be careful of disrupting the flow and disrupting the culture and disrupting what you've built by bringing in somebody that may have a little edge to them. They may have a little something in their neck, right? A veteran that is kind of set in their ways. Right? It's much easier to teach a young guy your ways than it is to try to get a older guy, a veteran that's been in the league, to do all of a sudden what you want him to do. It's a lot harder to do that. So they're trying to build something in their image. Another reason why they're not going to go out there and bring in a lot of free agents. And the other thing about free agency, it's funny, man. I always go to my grave with the words that Tim Brown said, that players keep players that they want, or teams keep players that they want, right? If they really, truly want a player, they'll keep them. And so that's the other thing to look at when you think about free agents. They're out there for a reason, right? They're free agents for a reason. So thanks so much for that call. Definitely appreciate you. Up next, got a text from Mike Rice. It's a very lengthy text, been trying to get to for a couple days now. He said, yo, it's Mike Rice. Been listening since this year. I've been a Raider fan since the Super Bowl 2002. I've been a diehard Raider fan on the East Coast 757 ever since. My view on the Raiders is they always went for the big names or had a dumb pick. We would get a big name and nothing comes from it, or we pick a nobody. So examples, and he gives a lot of examples. 2006, number 7 overall, Michael Huff, defensive back, solid to be honest. 2007, number 1 overall pick, Jamarcus Russell, bust. 2008, number 4, Darren McFadden, running back, solid. I can't figure what happened, injuries, I think, which it was. 2009, 7th overall pick, Darius Hayward-Bay, wide receiver, bust, but was fast. 2010, number 8, Rolando McClain, solid. 2014, number 5, Khalil Mack, linebacker, solid. I would say he was really good. 2015, number 4, Amari Cooper, wide receiver, solid. I would say he was really good for the time. 2016, 14, Carl Joseph, safety. What happened? I don't know. Injuries. He was injured when the Raiders drafted him. He was coming off a torn ACL. He was really good at West Virginia, but he was coming off a torn ACL, and he never, ever really got back to playing his level of ball. 2017, number 24, Garyon Conley. Who is this guy? It's a guy that you don't want to get me started on talking about. I was so mad when the Raiders selected that guy. I was there in Philadelphia at the Rocky Steps when they selected him. He was a guy that had a lot of off-the-field issues going on at the time. Nobody was going to select him in the first round. They probably weren't going to select him in the first few rounds. And the Raiders, Reggie McKenzie, decided to go get him in the first round. And a guy named T.J. Watt was still sitting there that they could have got. I think Pittsburgh drafted him, 28? And the Raiders got Gareon Conley at 24. 2018, number 15 overall, Colton Miller, perfect. 2019, Cleve Farrell, hate the pick. Josh Jacobs, running back, Alabama, perfect. Jonathan Abram, love him, but he was wild. Yeah, that 2019, that first round, Cleve Farrell, nobody expected that at that spot. Josh Jacobs, I thought was a really good pick. Abram, you knew the Raiders needed a safety, thought he was going to be a good one, but he just never turned out to be. He was, like you said, really wild. 2020, 12, Henry Ruggs, loved the pick. 19, Damon Arnett, quarterback, hated the pick. Yeah, I didn't even know who Damon Arnett was when they selected him. I thought that they were onto something. I'm like, man, they must know something that we don't know, right? It was Jeffrey Okudah. Remember, he was the cornerback from Ohio State that everyone was talking about. Damon Arnett was across from him, right? And I was like, who is that guy? Who is that guy? So I thought that they knew something. No, they didn't. He was terrible. 2021, Alex Leatherwood. Is he starting? LOL. I was mad at that pick, and I'm an Alabama guy. When they picked Leatherwood at number 17, I was so mad. I thought that was a second-round guy at best. Sure wasn't a first-round guy. Well, he's I think he's with the Chargers now. He's like third string or fourth string. He's barely hanging in the league. 2023, number 7 overall, Tyree Wilson. If Q likes him, I like him, but I don't like this pick. I did like him. I did, and I still like him. I still think that he has some ability, and it looks like that maybe he is going to play inside as opposed to, always playing on the edge. It seems like he's kind of fitting in that role a little bit. We saw a little bit of that in mandatory minicamp, but this is a big year for Tyree Wilson. 2024, 13, Brock Bowers, tight end. Didn't like it, but hey, he hit. There's no doubt about it. He was a shocking pick. I didn't see it coming. Didn't think that he was even going to be available there. He wasn't even on my radar, but boom, that was a great pick. 2025, number 6, Ashton Genty. Perfect, since we had Geno anyway. I was praying that we didn't get Sam Darnold. I wanted Matt or Geno. In the past, the Raiders would have gotten Sam and passed on Geno or Matt. That's what I'm used to. I'm going to be honest. I wanted Sanders, and I know the older Raiders would have had Sanders make the pick or be the pick and not Genty, which I would have rather gotten Genty, but the old Raiders would have chose Sanders over Ward. That's what they do. I do always know how Raiders start. We start off good and finish bad like last year. I told people if the Raiders are above 500 after the 8th game, we're doing good because week 5 is when we dismantle. Example, last year, everybody was like, your Raiders are doing good. Once we lost to the Panthers, I told them my season is over. They don't believe me. We get unexpected win against the Ravens. Then we fumble the bag. We'll go 6-1 after our bye week. If we lose to the Jaguars, our season's over. We go 7-1. Week 9, we are great. Yes, I'm a new booty. Pause. And I was hooked to your voice. It's great for podcast. Pause. LOL. Whew. That was a lot. That was a lot to unpack. I think that I got lost in the sauce there at the end of that text. But really good stuff. That was really well thought out. And that was a lot of years. I'm sure Raider Nation was thinking like, man, I just went through a whole lot through that text right there. I mean, you probably just went through a bunch of roller coasters of emotions, hearing all those picks and all the descriptions of the picks that Mike Rice put out there on that lengthy text. So thanks so much for that. Definitely appreciate you. We'll close out with a call from Raider Adam in Reno. He's calling to talk about Allegiant Stadium, the season, and a couple off-season moves.
Hey, Q. This is Raider Adam in Reno, Nevada. It's been a while since I've called in. I hope everything is doing well. Just want to kind of let you know that this past Sunday, me and my girlfriend, we toured Allegiant Stadium, and I was really, really impressed. It was really cool seeing all the Super Bowl trophies. I'm hoping that we can add another one here soon, and that stadium is so cool, especially the locker room stuff. That was pretty fantastic to witness. But anyways, yeah, that just got me really excited for the season. I've been more excited for this season than previous seasons just because Pete Carroll's the head coach. I think we have some really good foundational pieces in place. I absolutely love the Ashton Genty pick in the draft. I think he's going to be an absolute superstar in this league. I just think the defense, I love that. I don't remember his name, but I believe he was a linebacker that we signed from Cincinnati. I did a brief reading on him, and he looks like to be a pretty good player. So add some depth to the linebacking core with Devin White and the linebacker that we got from Pittsburgh. I would say before, a couple or just one more move that we can make in the offseason is I would like to see us get a veteran wide receiver. hopefully a guy like Keenan Allen could be available just because it's a limited room right now. I think that would benefit the offense. And then for defense, maybe another cornerback addition. I'm not sure what free agents are out there, but anyways, Q, I love touring the Allegiant Stadium. I'm hoping I can go to a game there one day. But it was awesome. So anyways, keep on doing great things. Love listening to the show. And Raider Adam is out. Go Raiders.
Raider Adam, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate you. And yeah, no doubt, man, Allegiant Stadium is fantastic. As far as the offseason moves, I think the Raiders are going to be very careful about who they bring into the locker room. I think they're going to try to find guys that don't disrupt the culture of the locker room, like I mentioned earlier. It's a relatively young one, so you got to be careful with who you bring in. But if they do, it'll probably be a vet or two closer to camp or actually when camp starts, and that'll be coming up at the end of July. So that's going to do it for the show. That's it. Mike Rice, again, I'm still trying to recover from that lengthy text, but thanks so much. I do appreciate it. Always love when we get the feedback on the show. We appreciate it. Got a text from Peter in Winnipeg we'll get to tomorrow. Raider Too Much, got a call from him that we'll get to tomorrow. We'll have more news and notes. We'll have at least a lot more discussion. And let me know, what's the one word that you would use to describe Geno Smith? One word you'd use to describe the Raiders? And if you want to feel a little freaky and a little adventurous, what's the one word you would use to describe Raider Nation? Let me know about it. 707-654-4693. That feedback will come up on tomorrow's show as well. So until then, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.